Thank you. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Easy Allies November Q&A session. This is for $20 and up patrons. We're going to be taking your questions. But before we get there, the first thing I want to say is because of the holidays, we've got kind of two things that we had to do. We switched it to a Monday. Normally, we do this on the last Saturday of every month, but not this time. And also, unfortunately, Huber will not be joining us and Kyle Bossman will not be joining us. They're busy folk. They got things happening. Holiday season, they got to get those Black Friday deals. I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but it will be myself, Brandon Jones. He can say hi. He doesn't have to say hi. Bradley Ellis.
Hello.
Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
Ian Hink.
Hi.
And Michael
So I can
Damiani.
hop out and put it on. Woo.
Speaking of Thanksgiving, our first question actually has a lot to do with it, and it's from Ace. He says, since I am first, and this is now before the holiday of the month, let's get in the spirit. Favorite Thanksgiving memory and favorite Thanksgiving dish. Mine is the day after turkey chowder. With the day after turkey chowder, my dad makes from leftover ingredients. That's some good stuff. Love and respect, allies. I would like to say on behalf of us allies, we are ever so grateful and indebted to you. You bring us laughs, smiles, joys, and good vibes. We are more thankful to you guys than can be described in words. Love and respect. All right. Favorite Thanksgiving memory is tough for me. Does anybody have one?
We used to have, I've got a very, very large family, and we used to have them all come to my house. So that was just great to have like 70 people over. It was great. And I mean, turkey is my favorite.
Did you have like a big house? How did you fit? That's a lot of people.
Yeah. It's a big house.
Nice. I almost feel like big houses are a fantasy since living in Los Angeles. Like everything's just super small to me. Like, I can't.
None of us will ever have
a big house, but
anywhere near as big as that house.
Anyone else?
Yeah. So every Thanksgiving, we would go to my grandma's who lived in Vegas. So we did the road trips there. And at the grandma's, we had the NES. Castlevania. Every Thanksgiving. Nothing says Thanksgiving like killing vampires.
Were you always the one that got the farthest and like all the cousins looked up to and they were like, whoa, cool. He can kill the Grim Reaper.
Yeah. I don't think I could get to Grim Reaper when I was that young, though. I was lucky if I got to like Frankenstein or something.
That's such a good story and such a Brad story. I love it.
They asked about favorite dishes too. Mine's definitely stuffing. I love to like turkey stuffing.
Oh yeah.
Stuffing was. I didn't like stuffing growing up, but now,
gravy all over that.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm definitely a fan of green bean casserole. I don't know if I'd call it my favorite, but
yeah, that's good. You put the French onions on there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't forget about those French onions though.
But no, that's key part of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Key part of it.
Absolutely. It's just the way that you said that. Like, hey, don't forget.
Oh yeah.
I mean, mashed potatoes and gravy is like one of the greatest foods of all time. And my grandma makes a sweet beef and noodle, like beef stroganoff kind of thing. That's killer. But those are kind of boring answers.
I like it.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
All about the classics, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think like Brad, like I don't know that I have a super specific year that encompasses the best Thanksgiving or anything, but for 10 years or so we'd go up to Northern California, one of my friends' families, and that was just super chill. We'd go out to like this old gold mining town where they've got like shops and candy shops and like you can get in the costumes and do the old timey photos and things.
Did you pan for gold, Bloodworth?
I didn't do the pan for gold. There was like a horse-drawn carriage kind of thing, and then there's also the big sequoias, the huge trees up there too. So we'd walk around there as well.
Nice.
And a Christmas parade. Yeah.
Ooh.
Lots of fun stuff.
I gotta know Damiani's favorite Thanksgiving dish.
Stuffing.
Nice. Okay.
Pretty boring. Yeah.
Stuffing brothers in arms.
Stuffing brothers.
Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving memory? I don't know if I have one, honestly.
I don't, and I haven't done anything really for Thanksgiving in about 10 years. So,
Damiani, come to my house, dude.
yeah.
Come on over.
Dude,
it's like,
Damiani, you'll appreciate this. Like the last 3 Thanksgivings in a row, I've gone to Sujita, so that's what my Thanksgiving has become.
True.
Yep.
True Japan.
Yep. They're open, man. One of the few places that are open.
I love that, man. That's so
One year I
good.
tried to do a platter of chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A,
Oh no, what?
and the smallest one they got was just too big, and like I had like leftovers for like over a week,
Dude.
and by like day 3 I was like, I really don't like chicken right now. So didn't do that again.
That's awesome.
Don't do that.
That is awesome. All right. Our second question. Thank you, Ace, for the question. We appreciate it. Our second question comes in from Joseph. He says, should video games do more to accommodate first-time players? I'm sure I'm not the only person that rolls their eyes when a game beats you over the head with how a player's health bar works out. But similar to how every Easy Allies podcast is someone's intro to the podcast, every game is someone's intro to a genre or even their very first video game. I remember the first time my brothers and I played an RPG, it took us a while to even grasp the concept of hit points and damage since we had never played a game where health was displayed as numerical values. We were getting wrecked for hours upon hours from a boss until we happened to discover that buying new armor would increase our defense. Sure, it all feels like second nature now, but we all have to start somewhere, and if it happens to be on a game that assumes the player has a base understanding of the systems and mechanics of a genre, it can be too intimidating. Should more games help out the very inexperienced, or is it wiser to appease to the larger base of players that don't want to feel patronized? I like this question.
Yeah, I wonder if you could just have like a not a default, obviously, but like if you have like easy, medium, hard difficulty, have maybe something below easy that's like, I have never played an RPG before. You're like, oh, okay, like then I will introduce all sorts of really obvious things that would be potentially obvious to other players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
some difficulty settings like do that in their description. They say like, hey, you've never played, like you're not familiar with action adventure games or RPGs. But I don't know if every developer has the resources and time to do that, to make like difficulty options like that, where it's not just like the enemies are easier, it's that if you pick the easiest setting, they got to account for all these extra tutorials, or if like say you get to your first boss, they'll have like pointers and stuff. It doesn't seem that difficult, but I don't want to just like jump to the assumption that, oh, every developer should easily be able to do this when it might be a bigger deal than I can imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's like I'm trying to think about, like back to my first RPG, and like maybe because it was simpler, it was like more apparent. But it's like yeah, you go to the shop and it's like, okay, there's a better spear or whatever in the shop, and better, like, I don't know, maybe there's just fewer things to worry about, so that like, okay, when you go into a town, what's this guy do? It's like, okay, I got it. If I get this much coin, then I can get this thing. I do think there's a lot of RPGs to take that extra minute to like say, hey, don't forget to equip the thing you just picked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's always a funny tooltip, but like in this context, it kind of makes sense.
I like it when games are like, do you want to equip this immediately when you buy it?
Yeah, those are great.
Yes.
I love in games
I
when you go over like a corpse or something, and you don't even have to click on the body. You can just see what it has on it, and you can see its stats without having to push anything.
Yes.
Just immediately able to do that. I think a big problem that I have with tutorializing is that, and this is, I don't know, it's not done creatively enough, where you have a lot of games where it's like, okay, we're going to interrupt you. We're going to freeze time. We're going to put this giant text box on the screen. Now we're going to make you do the thing 3 times. It's not that it's not effective. I think it is effective, but I think you can contextualize it more in the world. Like, I like it when they make the tutorial part of the story where it's like, okay, now you're a kid and we're not going to interrupt the game or talk down to you, but things are going to be easier because of like this hero's point in his life or something like that. Not maybe an amazing example, but I always think of like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, where the first battle you do is a snowball fight as kids. And it's like a cool thing that you never do again. And it doesn't, it's not like interrupting the game. It's still fulfilling a story purpose. I just think like context could be a little bit better for like introducing mechanics.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like tutorials when they're optional too. You could go through maybe in the start menu, or the game could be like, hey, you could just skip this whole tutorial if you want to, if you know what you're doing. Something like that. Like Dark Souls, I know Dark Souls 2, the starting area is kind of like the tutorial, but you can just run through it if you want to. There's multiple paths if you want to explore, and it'll teach you how to play more.
Yeah. I was playing Oblivion the other night on like checking out some Xbox One X stuff. And you think about that game's tutorial where you're in that initial dungeon. And like I've done that initial dungeon probably like 40 or 50 times or something, but it's still fun because it's introducing you to mechanics like lockpicking or how archery works or how sneaking works. But you're still getting to explore a dungeon. Like you're still finding loot. You're still setting up, you're still like rolling the logs on the enemies and stuff like that. I don't know. It's pretty cool. And Dark Souls is like that too, as you said.
It makes me think of like when instruction booklets like went away and people realized like, well, if you need that information, you can just go to the internet, or you can like, there's other places you can find that. I don't need to like have these giant thick, books that are going to have like all the information. And so like when you first said this question, Ben, I was like, well, in this day and age, you can just go to the internet or watch somebody stream it or like watch a video about it. And then I remembered the fact that as of this day, I still have no idea how to upgrade weapons in Neo. Like I tried to figure it out, and then was like, wait, let me just step away from this. And then went back later and still no. And Ben explained it to me like 4 times. And like, I went read blogs about it and I'm still just like, I have no idea. So games sometimes.
I do think bringing up instruction manuals is a good point, because it's like, actually Dragon Warrior, again, one of my first RPGs it's got this amazing instruction booklet. And it's got like all of the weapons with this awesome art in the instruction booklet. And I would just look through that book just when somebody else was playing or something, because it was so cool. And so, you just absorb that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I'd always like read the entire instruction manual front to back a couple of times on the hour drive home from the cities, So like, how to play the game before you even get home and play it, because you've read the book so many times.
Well, and I loved that they would include some of the story in the instruction manual too.
Right.
And so you kind of had like context for the world that you were going in, and it was like exciting on the drive. You're totally right, Ian. Like exciting on the drive home.
Like the player bios and everything in there.
Yeah.
And there was
so
many like Japanese game manuals had blood type as well.
Yeah,
like,
their blood types.
This is not relevant.
Who
to
cares?
anything, but
that's actually because I think I'm going to get a lot of this wrong, but I remember reading a thing about like why do they always have blood type, and it's because of it's kind of like a horoscope, like something might say like Pisces, they're like, it's like personality type thing, I think, something like that is like an old Japanese belief, kind of like a horoscope level, kind of like
interesting
superstition or whatever.
You're such a B type.
Regarding
it's something like
looking things up on the internet. While the internet is a great resource, obviously, for games, and I use it a lot when I get stuck, what upsets me and what's happening more and more is anytime you look up something on the internet, it's almost impossible, because you don't know exactly what it is that you're looking for. It's why you're stuck in the first place. You always end up like revealing way more than you want to know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I did get the answer, but I also spoiled this next part for myself.
I scrolled down slightly too far. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that
you gotta try to be super specific in like your searches.
Where is the secret entrance to Shiveria? Yeah. Exactly.
Risk reward.
Let's see. All right. Thank you for that question. Who's that from us? From Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. Our next one is from Alexander, and he always has some interesting ones. Greetings from Russia. This is not a troll question. I genuinely don't understand what makes Star Wars so popular. I've watched the first 6 episodes of Star Wars several times through the years, but they never impressed me. For me, episodes 4, 5, and 6 are the worst. I simply don't believe that anyone can be afraid of the Empire because Imperial troopers are easily fooled and they can't hit a target even at point-blank range. Also, it's too clear that alien creatures are puppets or men in costumes, which makes it hard to believe that you see an actual living creature. These issues were largely fixed in episodes 1, 2, and 3, but they suffer from another serious problem: really bad writing. Episode 7 is the best, but it still left me with mixed feelings. Rey is a great character, and all battle scenes are really impressive, but story is a big disappointment. Isn't there anything else to do besides destroying Death Stars for the third time? Probably Star Wars isn't for me, and I'm okay with that. Still, there's a chance that I'm just missing something. So I'd like to ask you, what makes Star Wars special?
Well, I don't think you're missing anything. You tried. You gave it your best shot. You watched 6 of them. And if you don't like it, they're just not for you.
I mean, I would say that Star Wars, they're fables, like they're fairy tales set in space, and like their story is no better or worse than most fairy tales because they're pretty simplistic. So if that's not what you're after, then yeah, you're not going to find, your Star Wars is in another castle.
I mean, the strength of Star Wars for me is the characters and relationships they all have between all of them. So if you could like attach yourself, for instance, the relationship Luke has with Yoda on Dagobah is like a super powerful connection to me. That's where Star Wars is really something for me. For like the example, the prequels, like I hate everybody in the prequels. I don't care about anything. They all suck except Obi-Wan. He's cool.
Also the music, I would he didn't really address that, and I don't know if that's something that just kind of washed over him, but if somebody came to me and they were like, I saw New Hope and I didn't like it, come at me, bro, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like, what sci-fi did you like? I would actually be really curious to read a book that you liked or something. But if somebody came at me and they were like, John Williams is a hack, I'd be like, get off this planet. So
clearly not.
No longer allowed to live on Earth. Because it just, I mean, that a tremendous amount of work, not only for that, but for the prequels. Like one of the in my opinion, the few redeeming things from episodes 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, good point bringing up. I think Yoda is just a great sci-fi character in general. Like there's not a lot of places before 1980 that you had found a character like Yoda in film.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Yoda's a puppet, but I think he's a pretty damn good one. Like there are a couple moments that are a little weird, but the costuming thing is a weird thing to call it specifically for Star Wars, because it's just like that's everything. That's I would Chewbacca looks fake as opposed to who, it's like as opposed to the 1990 Turtles film, which nailed it. It's like what was the person in costume movie you saw that didn't like look fake?
Yeah,
and like to that,
bringing up the prequels, fixing a lot of that, like especially in the character like look CG department. I cannot disagree with you more. Like look at Boss Nass and Watto and tell me they look good. I dare you.
Like Jabba,
I dare you.
I would have an obvious puppet. I would take an obvious puppet any day of the week over CG, like bad CG.
Yeah,
because it like the light hits it right. It doesn't look all shiny and dumb. Like Jones. Speaking of the music, I was at Disneyland the other day, and just randomly there was this marching band, the Disneyland band, that my sister and I heard the Indiana Jones theme. So we go over and watch. They had this little area. They marched around. They did Indiana Jones, and then they did Beauty and the Beast, and then they did Pirates of the Caribbean, and then they did a 6-minute Star Wars medley.
Nice.
Tears, just like pure joy. I was losing my marbles. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, it's just one of the, like, it's probably maybe harder to come into now, like if you're younger, there's so much different stuff, but like there wasn't anything else really like Star Wars in a way, when it first came around, is like, especially in terms of like sci-fi, when you're thinking about creatures and characters and stuff, there's so many characters that are not very humanoid. And I think that's a big deal that a lot of sci-fi misses out on, that it's not just somebody that looks like a person in a mask, and there's a lot more elaborate things in that world that may be easier to take for granted now. But even now, I think there's not that many sci-fi things that venture away from humanoid stuff.
When you kind of raise a good point too, like a friend of mine who hadn't seen the Goonies and then watched it like a year ago and hated it. I'm like, yeah, if you didn't get in on the ground floor, and if you, especially as I suspect may have happened, if you watched 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, like if you watch them in chronological order instead of release order, now having never seen any of the Star Warses, like yeah, these movies are you're probably not gonna love them.
All the best moments of 4, 5, 6 are gone. Also,
Right.
I wonder if Alexander has only seen Special Edition.
Ooh.
Oh, that is sick.
Oh.
You know, imagine that, man. Imagine seeing 4 and
Oh.
it's got like the speeder bikes through Mos Eisley, you know,
And it like destroys its own narrative by putting young Anakin at the end of Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first
Shoot
time
me
I
in the
saw
face.
that.
Shoot me.
Ew.
It negates his deathbed repentance. Oh God.
Ugh.
Oh, I'm upset.
Like, we could do a whole podcast about why we hate Special
So.
Edition.
Oh,
Laserdisc.
I think Ian said the number one reason why I hate it though. Like,
that like
Yep.
everyone's all like Han shoots first. I'm like, I don't give a crap who shot first. That's narratively destructive. Putting Hayden Christensen at the end of Jedi.
I care who shot first.
Luke
I mean,
Skywalker
like,
screaming as he falls
obviously
into
Han.
Empire is the worst. That's
When
my
he goes,
single- he
So
does like
bad,
the
dude.
Pee Wee Herman scream as he falls. Or just like,
Didn't they
Alexander,
do it like 6 times?
Alexander is in chat and he says he's seen both. He saw the originals first.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Fair
We
enough.
can't use that.
All right. Well, then hey, it's all right. It's not for you. That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Nobody's mad.
We just happen to. This is a strong Star Wars group.
Yeah.
I just got mad at George Lucas, not
We're
you.
mad at George Lucas. Yeah.
Our next question comes in from Kit. It says, "Hey allies, I was wondering how you all felt knowing that you're responsible for memes between friends and even entire friend groups of people. The friend group I've made within your community has too many memes directly from Easy A, such as what is it about Steve? I think talking about Steve Burnside from Resident Evil and Knack and so on.
Nice. That's a deadly power I don't feel comfortable having.
I think it's
I love it. I am a clown for your amusement. Like
Yeah.
use me. If you can use me as the butt of a joke to make your life better, use me. I think I love that. I remember when I first started to pick up on threads of like streams that were happening outside of us and gatherings that were happening, especially when we did the first year meetup, that like there were a lot of instances of like our fans getting together and like any life that this can lead outside of our control, that is in the nature of creating friends group and repeating your favorite moments from stuff that we've done. Like that's fantastic. Thumbs up across the board.
Agreed.
It's gotten to the point where there'll definitely be people who like reference something and they're like, haha, this thing, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what you're referencing. Like
Most of the time.
it's fun. The net has gotten so big. That, like
Classic
I'm not even
Cosmo
aware of
Degrassi
all the
anecdote. Like I don't
You're right.
watch that.
Yeah. I've never seen that before.
like after the Ga thing happened on Kyle's stream.
Oh God.
There was a lot of guying all over the place.
Yeah.
And I just felt like a fish out of the water for
Yeah.
a little while.
I feel like that happens a lot on Kyle streams.
Mhm.
Just memes are born and we have no idea what's going on.
right.
Yeah.
Like,
That's because Kyle gets paralyzed when he laughs.
Yeah.
Kyle starts laughing and the whole stream ends because of it.
It's a good Kyle impression, Emery.
That's a very good one. Yep.
Like, Ben, do you think there's another Ben out there? And when he walks into somewhere, his friends go, "It's Ben."
In the world, there are a lot of Bens out there, but
Like someone taught in the Easy A web.
Oh, I
Oh,
guarantee it.
like somebody is aware of Easy Allies and they do it to their friend Ben because
Yeah.
of Ben.
And he's just
Oh,
like,
no.
"Wow, man."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
We
making
did-
the lives of other Bens worse
Yeah.
or better. I don't know. Maybe they're into it. I don't know.
God.
I saw somebody say to me, they're just like, sometimes I'm just like sitting by myself and say it's Ben, like no one. I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? Yeah.
That's really funny.
You can't kill memes, man. They
Yeah.
only get stronger. All right.
You can only kill him. What is it? Huber said you can only kill a meme with a stronger meme.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we encourage it, and we have no control over it. I think is the official answer.
Just like a meme.
Just like a meme. Yep.
Yeah.
Our next one comes in from Miguel Shadow Marba Rivas. He says, topic, I like this. It's broken down into topic, background, and questions. This is a very organized question. Topic, Easy Allies' favorite gaming history topics. Background, my wife and I just found out we're having our second child. Congratulations.
Ooh, nice.
We feel so blessed. In keeping with this new beginning, we will be talking about Easy Allies' latest show. In Pixel Recount, the allies sleuth up their favorite gaming history topics. Each ally has brought an idea to this monthly meeting. Here are some example questions for the show. What is the first console generation? Why are games still $65? Which was the first game to introduce DLC? Who started the trend of having free DLC? When were microtransactions introduced? How have microtransactions evolved? What is RP? What is DPS? Why do those last two things matter? What is a speed run? How have controllers evolved? What is an MMO? What does it mean to have backwards compatibility? What is an online service? And why do they cost monthly fees? What is a retail versus digital game?
Sorry.
What gaming history topic would each ally like to talk about? Feel free to use any of the examples I've provided.
Whoa.
The first couple were good. What were like the first three?
Console generation,
yeah.
and then why are games still $65? Were the
I like
first
the first
two.
console generation was nice because unfortunately the first console generation's got to span like a decade. Like it was the 70s basically. It was
Right.
like the first.
Right.
And there were many consoles and attempts of people in a lab making stuff, but it wasn't until like the one before the Atari, like the Intellivision and
ColecoVision, was that before?
ColecoVision maybe. Yeah, it was like.
I can't remember.
There was an action. So there's like that first console gen, and then there was like the Atari gen where they actually started making like systems. So that's Gen 2, I believe.
Go ahead.
And we're kind of done. We're kind of over. I don't know if we'll get a gen after this because it's really hard to figure out. Technically, Switch is next gen. The PlayStation 5 is in the same gen as the Switch, technically.
Yeah.
Right.
It, like throws all that out.
If I'm bringing a topic to gaming history, we're talking about Sega. Like that's what we're talking about for sure. Because I think they're one of the most interesting companies in the history of gaming that has gone through some of the most dramatic highs and lows, yet is still relevant to this day. Like it's still a big company making high-profile games, but they're doing it in a totally different way than what kind of brought them to prominence. I just think, like, it's, in terms of fascinating companies, I think Sega is right at the top.
I love that. Yeah, there were whole like years and years where I was just like, surely Sega's done now. Like they're screwed and they're still around. Yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, well, and all the focus they put on picking up some of the stuff in the West, like the Total War and everything.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Like it feels like such a not Sega kind of thing, but they're doing it and they're successful. This isn't just another Total War announced the other day.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I'd want to do something on Konami.
Yeah.
And find out that specific point and whatever they decided we're done with video games mostly.
Right.
We're moving away from that. I want to know what caused that.
When they were like, we're crazy now.
Yeah. Like what, like either be as a game that they made and they spent a lot of money and it just didn't do well and made them decide to go from that, or just it came about organically or something like that.
Well, it's interesting because Konami's always had their hand in other things, in gambling and stuff, and so it's just as the industry changed, like their focus on like their different businesses changed. And
yeah, but like what made them decide to change specifically in that?
Sure.
Well, and you think about too, I mean, so many of these companies had arcade backgrounds, you know, and they were all in a way developing hardware, and so it's interesting to think about why is it that Nintendo and Sega were the ones that decided to jump into home hardware, and you know, Capcom didn't do that. Midway didn't really do that. You know, like so.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
You think of like the evolution of Namco, right? Like that's really interesting. if you take kind of their early days to where they are now. Yeah, we should do this show. This is a good show.
This is a good show.
Well, especially Midway, right? Because they were making cabinets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's like weird. Like, yeah, it seems like a natural progression to make a console.
Cool. Damiani, what do you got for us?
So I know it was brought up as it sounded like the tone was a joke, but DPS was mentioned.
Yeah, it was.
And I know that's also a bit of like a meme in Easy Allies, but the actual concept within online games, specifically MMOs, but beyond MMOs, online games like DPS, like is in terms of rotations for classes, like the history of that, like the obsession over player bases to determine like optimal rotations for classes in online games, and just like the people who like kind of do like theory crafting about what is like the best gear to use to increase your DPS, what is the best rotation to do, but also the negative effects of it, how it contributes to the kind of a culture of toxicity with some of the player bases, and that people usually assume like, hey, there is a best rotation for this class. If you're not doing it, you're not playing the game right, get out of my game and stuff. Which
Right.
maybe in a competitive setting, like a ranked match in a game, sure. Like if you're like not playing like the best class makeup for your party to give you the best chance to win, you're spamming like Ice Mage instead of doing like a proper rotation. It's like you got other spells there, bud. Stop spamming the weakest spells just because you're worried about your MP management. But at the same time, like a lot of these games have like casual modes or like stories content, but you don't need to worry about that. So like the term DPS, yeah, it's very simple, but like the history behind how it's been leveraged by players and what it means to different players is kind of intriguing to me. It's like,
well, it's funny that you were talking about, because I even got some of that on my Dark Souls streams, where like, you know, I'd go to level up and there'd be people in chat that would lose their minds because I would put a point into something that wasn't vigor or endurance.
I mean, endurance, though.
Exactly, like point allocation into your different attributes.
I basically had to figure out what build I was going for, so that like it's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Don't bug me anymore about where I'm putting my points.
Bloodborne, I was all damage. I'm like, if I get hit by something, I'm dead anyway. So I want to, when I get in there and actually make contact, I wanted to like do something. I remember Damiani, I would get so frustrated when I was raiding. The peak of my MMO raiding was Lich King, and I remember like going into parties and people being like, dude, you gotta do more DPS than that. You gotta fix your rotation. And I'm like, cool. Tell me the rotation to do. And they're like, well, you know, to each his own, you know, I mean, it's just got different styles. You just got to find something that works for you. I'm like, clearly it's not working. Let me know, like literally just say like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2, like let me know what to press and when. And no one ever would. They'd be like, nah, you know, you got to figure that out yourself, man. But figure it out because you're not doing enough. And it's like, how? Like, what?
Yeah.
Contradictory.
That argument is like, that argument exactly. Like these games, most of these games do not teach you or tell you what an optimal or even an okay rotation is. It's left to like the community. It's like the social interaction of the game. It's go talk to players. But nowadays, usually get players go like, "Oh, it's so obvious. Like, go look it up on the internet." Like, well, that's like the answer to everything now is like, go look up a YouTube video by like a top player, and like that's it. There's like only one. Like, it's so cryptic to some people, even though the information is out there, but it's not taught within the game, and then that leads to like game design stuff. Like, should game developers who make like games like Overwatch or 14 or WoW or whatever, should they kind of like be responsible for teaching you the like rotations, like keeping up with the community and implementing in-game tools to do that, or do they just trust that no, the community will do this for us? That's like, you know, we if we put out something and it's wrong, and you know the community will like chastise us for that. So
it can be really frustrating when left up to the community, though, because the community, because it's not their job, it can be really scattershot. Like I've had instances where I've looked up a rotation for a class that I'm trying to get into in an MMO, only to find out that when I actually apply it, that like it's 2 patches behind what it is actually supposed to be. And now that you're 2 patches behind, it's kind of a similar rotation, but you need to change it out a little bit. And it's like, but the guy who was doing the best guides in the clearest manner for these things didn't do one for this patch. And so it's like, it gets confusing and like needlessly cumbersome. But at the same time, I think if you do just give players everything, then you have even less communication than you already have in MMOs, and like that's kind of the whole point of them, is like figuring out stuff together. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the best answer is. What I think is interesting about concepts that were almost exclusively applied to MMOs are now used in everything. Like I see players playing single player games talking about DPS, and not that it can't be applicable, but like that is not a thing that was happening before. You didn't have everybody saying DPS, 10 years ago. You didn't have everybody saying farming or Smurfs or like all of this stuff that started in the MMO realm kind of carrying over. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that is.
But thank you. That was a great question.
Yeah.
We got a good discussion out of that. Our next one is from Michael. He says, "Hello, allies. I was wondering if Damiani has any experience with Neutopia or Neutopia 2. Would be interested in his opinion about these games. They have been re-released for Wii and Wii U's Virtual Console service. I think it would be fun to see more streams with Damiani and Bosman and anyone else who wants to join. Love and respect."
Wait, what game? Metopia or Utopia?
Neutopia.
Neutopia?
N-E-U-Topia. Neutopia.
I have to be reminded what those are. Like I'm drawing a blank when I'm trying to think of those.
I can't help you.
Yeah, that I was wondering, like, if Kyle,
familiar.
I'm wondering if Kyle was here, he'd be like, "Oh, Damiani, those are those like old Nintendo." I'm not. I'm drawing.
TurboGrafx, apparently.
Oh, okay, then yeah, I have no history with those. I wonder what this question came up from, because I saw a lot of people this week when I streamed Skyrim. I got a lot of people asking me would I keep streaming Skyrim, because people like seeing someone who had never played it before, like playing it in 2017.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's like a really rare thing. I don't get to see someone who has never played it. Everyone in the world played it, so that's a unique thing. So I don't know if that's what this came from, but
That's funny. That's what I was gonna do for Easy Update this week. Is play Skyrim for the first time on the Switch. Like,
I think you should do it. Yeah. What race did you pick, Damiani?
I went with it was a dark elf or night elf, the dark elf.
Yeah.
And I basically went as I spec the destruction, so destructive spells. I would use like mostly fire, left-handed, healing right, sword sometimes, until the chat told me I could dual wield magic. I was like, oh, didn't know you could assign. I thought the sword was the default, like right-handed weapon is always going to be right-handed, like blade or axe or something. Left is what I could change out. But they're like, no, look, like on Switch, ZL is the left weapon, ZR is the right. You can't switch them out. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I found out about scrolls, and I was like, they're one-time use things. I was like, oh, because I got confused. I thought a scroll now equipped a fireball every time on my right hand. It's like, no, that's a one-time. You save that for a boss dummy. That's a big hit. That's a lot of DPS right there. You don't.
Are they like old scrolls or something? Are they like really old?
They look old when you pick them up. You can pick up books, Ian. There are a lot of books in the game with actually
I played hundreds of hours of Morrowind and Oblivion, and I would steal books and fill my house with them.
Nice.
You know? That's like what I did.
All I was saying is I got a someone called like Dressla or started with a D. He was like in a building, a house, a little village just outside of the first town, like Whiterun or whatever. And there was a dragon up on a snow mountain, and I got my butt kicked by both of them. But I was able to make them go fight each other. Like I pulled her out of the house, pulled the dragon down, and then they aggroed each other, and then they just sat there and fought. I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, I saw you had the Breath of the Wild outfit on too.
Oh boy.
I almost puked when I saw that.
I got rid of it pretty quickly though.
You play first person or third person primarily?
I was trying to do third person for a little bit. I was sticking to first person for combat. There'd be some times when I wanted to see more around me for navigating, and I'd use third person. But the controls are just a little weird in third person. Like it was clearly not meant to be played in third person. Yeah.
Jones, I got to give credit to you. I probably wouldn't have checked it out were it not for like you talking to me about it and the good time that you had. Like Skyrim VR is pretty awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. Like just going through that opening sequence and like being able to get right up into a dragon or just to like look at a body and be able to loot it. It's really cool. It's made me more nauseous than any VR game I've ever played. But just having this huge world in VR that just feels like in VR feels boundless.
I saw someone
VR?
Yeah.
Yeah, PlayStation VR.
I saw somebody put up an article that said it's the worst way to play Skyrim, and that's probably true.
Right.
Like, if you're gonna play the whole thing, like it's probably physically impossible for a human being to play the entirety of Skyrim in VR. Like that would just be,
people are gonna do it.
Very, very taxing. Not to mention just like to have that constantly plugged in and right, you're like, all right, I'm gonna play this fun RPG for an hour. Let me like get all set up here. But if you love RPGs, and certainly if you played Skyrim before, it's a trip.
I wasn't really playing it like optimized RPG player style. It was just like let's run around, like let's get up in this person's face, let's look at everything in this room. When you kind of apply tourist mode to it, it becomes fun.
Definitely,
for sure. Awesome. Okay, our next question comes from DRD 7 of 14. He says, "Hello there, allies. It got me thinking recently. IP holders go back and forth between developing games in-house and outsourcing their development. Looking at Nintendo, it's done quite well for them doing most IP in-house, but then we got incredible experiences like Mario and Rabbids and Super Mario RPG, which were great twists on the IP. With Star Wars, outsourcing has generally had a negative impact on the quality of games, with few exceptions like Jedi Outcast, Empire at War, and the Star Wars Battlefront classics, while doing them in-house offered higher quality results like Republic Commando and Dark Forces 2. Disney has been a flip-flop IP holder that has developed in-house and then outsourced and then back to in-house and again to outsourcing, but why is that? Disney is an organization that owns some of the greatest IP rife for video game development, but it chose to license it out to EA and Square Enix rather than using the resources at LucasArts to helm development. Do you find innate advantages to outsourcing IP to publishers like EA and Square Enix, or for doing development in-house? Is there any reason for Disney/LucasArts not to do both, aside from virtually no risk to the IP holder? Love to hear your thoughts on the matter this chilly Monday afternoon. Love and respect."
Well, Disney and LucasArts as game studios basically don't exist anymore, so there's that.
Yeah, Disney decided to like they weren't doing their own internal game development anymore. They had like one studio or one like division left, and that's since been like consolidated into like a bunch of other like interactive stuff. It's not just games anymore. Like I think the only logo that still appears from that is on like Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
I think is like the last remnant of that like logo from that old studio that Disney does. But that's why LucasArts, when we bought all that stuff, they're like, we don't make games anymore. So they just license. And I think the reason is that they know game studios already exist out there that specialize in game development. They don't need to create their own. They might be rethinking that after everything that's happened.
Yeah,
especially with EA, but that's why it's going on.
Yeah, I think they got some burned with felt burned with like Epic Mickey, I think.
Yeah.
The amount of creative resource that went into that for a game that didn't hit the audience and and wasn't received well.
Yeah, I think their general logic was why pay to do something when you can get paid to have something happen.
What's weird to me, though, for somebody that's loved Disney for so many years, is seeing them in other avenues like theme parks and Broadway and film and television make a colossal failure and then fix it. Like suddenly something go wrong, like Disneyland Paris was a failure, and they didn't shut down Disneyland Paris. They weren't like, well, let's not make theme parks anymore. They were like, wait, okay, sorry, we messed up. Let's just we'll rename it. We'll change all of this stuff. So it's weird seeing these other departments where they're like, failure is not an option. In video games, they're like, screw it, let's get out. And it's like, all right, just to see this company that's embracing so many fun things technologically in their theme parks, 4K projection and like adding all these cool tech. And then in video games being like interactive media, snooze, like we'll have those other people do it. We don't care. And like, that's kind of a bummer about this company that's so just insanely creative just to like give up on the gaming industry.
It definitely feels to me like there's, I don't know. It feels like a leadership problem because there was a couple of years back when Disney, they kind of doubled down on games. Like they bought the studio that made Pure. They had Turok in their library, and like they were really.
They had Turok?
Yeah, they did Turok.
Oh,
They made that Turok game on the PS3 and 360.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
But so it's like they were there, and then it was like somebody, like the staffing changed on the leadership level, and they're like, yeah, we're just gonna shut down the studio, and so like all those great racing game developers had to go to other places, and then it just kind of trickled, or it kind of got trimmed until like all that was really left was Disney Infinity, and then they killed that as well.
I think the thing that's hard, and like I think of Pokemon, for example, and I think about kind of the response to DMC, where you have like this fear of, if it's not coming from this source, it's fine, but it's also not real. Like you have this delegitimization of games, where you kind of get in this mindset where we've gotten something for so long from this person that if it's not from there, we're going to be resistant to it. And I think that happens with a lot of things. And I think it makes it hard to give your IP away. But if you think about what Nintendo is doing, right, you have something crazy like Mario and Rabbids Battle Kingdom, but then you also have Super Mario Odyssey. And so people don't really feel like they're missing anything. Like they're not getting something in place of something else. They're just getting both things. And I think that's how you have to do it. Because if you have a very strong, dedicated fan base that want the core team to iterate on those ideas, and then you just give them something else that they never asked for, I think it can be jarring and can be a little alienating. It can feel like this thing that you supported is like kind of stabbing you in the back in a weird way. I don't know. But yeah. All right. Are we ready for the next question? Any other thoughts on outsourcing?
Ready.
Ian, you like this one, and Blood, you like this one as well. Bino, hey allies, I've gotten into cooking more recently, so I'm curious about all of your cooking skills. I know Blood has some chops, and Jones never really learned how, but I'm curious about the other allies. How often do you cook? And I've got to believe you all have at least one go-to dish that you're pretty confident you cook pretty well, so what would it be? Maybe even share the recipe if it's an unusual one.
It's funny that he calls me out, because the past year, I'd say, has been pretty awful for me in terms of cooking, because I live in a shared house. I rent it from a friend of mine. We're in our room, and he got a new refrigerator a while back, and it has been a nightmare. It has been completely unreliable, and it's been fixed multiple times, and then replaced, and then fixed multiple times again. And so like we've just, because of all that, and because of not being able to really keep stuff in the refrigerator on a reliable basis, we've just basically gotten out of the habit of buying groceries and cooking as much as we should. And so I've just been terribly eating out way too much, and combined with busyness, it just kind of makes it hard to get back in that regular life rhythm of buying groceries and cooking like I should. But as you guys tasted, pasta is definitely one of my
that was good ass pasta. We've been doing, my girlfriend and I have been doing Blue Apron, and like I didn't really cook before that. I would make like eggs and spaghetti and macaroni and cheese and basic stuff, but like it's been a way for us to just learn to cook together, and it's been awesome, and we've been able to try a bunch of crazy things, and we've been kind of bad at it recently. We haven't done it in a few weeks, but for a while we were cooking meals from Blue Apron like 2 to 3 times a week, and it was just a really good experience for us.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I will say though is when I do get a chance to like stop and cook, like it is definitely a good stress reliever.
It is. It's so relaxing. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
It's like the exact opposite of relaxing for me. It's like, how can I give myself a heart attack? Oh, I know. Destroy some food.
That reminds me of like how people respond to Animal Crossing, where like I think Animal Crossing is like one of the chillest, most enjoyable things ever.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
just it makes you so happy. But then there are people who are like, no, this is boring. Why would anyone ever enjoy this? And I
Animal
think
Crossing is not boring. It's very stressful for me.
stressful.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
man.
Stardew Valley too. It's like because I don't want to disappoint any of these creatures, and like I can also simultaneously feel my life like slipping away because I'm not achieving anything important.
Right. Sure.
I like cooking, but like Bloodworth, I've gotten into the rhythm of eating out every single meal for years now, probably, and it's real bad news. But I've got a nice cast iron cookware set that I really enjoy cooking with. I like to make turkey goulash
Ooh.
and turkey burgers. And
I haven't had goulash in a while. That sounds delicious.
yeah, get some ground turkey, some elbow macaroni. Oh, various sauce items. It's good stuff.
Oof.
But yeah, cooking wastes a lot of time. Like I don't, unless it's like watching a really good show or playing a really good game, I never like to be doing one thing at a time. Like if I have to like walk Bender or go to the bathroom when I'm not like exporting something also, it makes me crazy. I hate it.
You got to enjoying life sometimes, man. Like sometimes you just gotta.
I enjoy life when multiple things are being accomplished at once.
I respect that. I respect that. It's fair.
Such an Ian answer.
Yeah.
That's good.
Cooking is just like it requires too much attention and takes too much time.
It does take a lot of time.
Ian cannot be in a meeting unless he is also setting up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Next
true.
Brad Damiani, thoughts on the
I like cooking. I haven't done it in a long time. Like I remember when I was in school or whatever, like growing up in summer, I just wake up all the time and make pancakes.
nice.
Just love making pancakes, stirring that up, flipping it. Recently, been using that George Foreman grill, cooking up some chicken on that. Just real simple stuff. I haven't done anything really intense in a while. Like I used to like make some like cakes or something like that, but I haven't done it in a while. But it's fun. It reminds me of like prepping for an RPG, Ben.
Yeah.
And you're getting all the ingredients and getting it all together. Ooh,
Right.
so satisfying. But then you got to clean it up, which sucks.
Yeah, I do hate cleaning a George Foreman grill.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yes. Yes. It's a pain in the ass.
Last thing I cooked was probably last month. I got fed up with how within my close proximity there isn't like anything but like fast food Mexican places, and like Del Taco and Taco Bell, and their tacos suck, despite what everyone else tells me. Like I don't think they only taste somewhat good when you're like starving, and like that's not like hunger is the best spice is like not the greatest argument when you have a choice. So I was like, you know what? I used to cook, make my own tacos. Like I used to go like buy ground beef. I used to buy the seasoning. I used to go and like decide which of the Mexican blend cheeses I don't want to get, and like salsa. And I don't really prefer sour cream, so I don't do that. But just the ground beef and the seasoning, and just cook that, getting the mixture right, and then just like stirring that like pot like over and over again. I mean, you can use a skillet, or you can just use a pot on like a stove. And the thing was, when I made it before, it would always take too long because I would add too much water to it. I was really bad, so you'd have to cook it like even longer because it's not supposed to be watery at all because that's bad. I thought that was like adding more flavor to it, but it would take so long. And I'm like, the box of the instructions says that like this should only take like a few minutes. I've been here for like 25 minutes and it still hasn't finished. I'm like, huh. And it's not burnt or anything. I was like, this is just like, it's just trying to like get rid of all the water in here. Anyway, last time I did it, it was much quicker. Like I actually followed the online instructions a little bit better this time. I was like, no, we're going to add exactly, like we're actually measure it. We're not going to eyeball it. We're going to measure it and actually put it in there. Went a lot better.
Yeah.
I will say I made a mistake of buying the taco shells, like old El Paso or whatever. They weren't the greatest. So I ended up like just taking the meat with cheese and salsa and just like kind of like doing it like what is it called, paleo style, basically with like no shell, which kind of stunk. Because like, man, I really like the shell part of this. Is the whole point.
Just get some tortillas at least.
Yeah, I gotta. I think the next would be like to learn to like make my own if possible. Like fresh made tortillas are like amazing. Taco shells, like I've never done either of those, so I have no idea if I have like the capability or the resources to do that. But because every like Mexican restaurant I've been to, like the tortilla machines are like they look super complicated. But I'm assuming you could probably make your own like somehow. So anyway, that was a long answer, but I've cooked like when I was younger, when I first made my own, I cooked a lot more. A lot of chicken dishes, basically. I used to try and like look up a bunch of like different Chinese recipes with chicken and stuff to try and make them on my own, and just go to the grocery store that was by me, and they would have like they call it the foreign foods aisle, which is like a great name for that. And then just like experiment. I'd buy a different sauce each time and be like, let's see how this one tastes, and that's how that would go.
I want some Damiani cooking.
Yeah.
Dude,
I want another.
We gotta do a potluck. We need a potluck. Everybody bring a dish. Ben, you know what you gotta bring.
Oh yeah, I'm on it.
Uh-oh.
Taco pizza.
That's right, Ian.
That's right.
Is
Get
that
ready.
Is that the meme?
We went back to the memes.
That's one of the golden memes.
I just want one. I want one of Ben's taco pizzas so
should-
bad.
During the
I'm
next
just gonna buy a
Easy
Casey
Living.
Tacos pizza.
During the
Brad-
next Easy Living, that can be part of it.
Oh yeah, we all cook. That would be a good idea. We could
I
even
like
stream
it. Ooh, we could stream the cooking.
Oh yeah, do we have a
We're
grill?
streaming everything.
I used to be
Streaming
really
the
good at
cooking.
grilling. Like when I was growing up, like that was something like my dad would like show me how to do and stuff at like a pretty young age. And there would be like nights I'd like cook like the steak or whatever meats we were cooking for like my family. And my dad would be like, "Here you go, you're cooking." So I was like, "Oh, cool."
Nice.
That is
Dad's
nice.
Dad's like Hank Hill, dude.
Yeah. Brad, I just want to say it must be pretty lucky for like growing up with Huber. Like I can imagine there would be times like my headcanon is that Huber would like go over to your house and he would wake up and you're like making pancakes for him. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ever actually happened, but
don't tell. Dude,
No, don't
I mean,
ruin
okay.
the headcanon. Thank you.
We made lots of delicious things together, and it was fun.
Nice. Cooking with Brad and Huber. That's a good time. Our next question comes in from Professor Metal Gear. What video game character does each ally consider a reflection of their personality or feel like a kindred spirit with? A lot of characters.
Hmm.
I mean, I always feel. I mean, I've kind of said this before, but like, I always feel like because the creative character is like I really feel like that's the game version of my actual self, you know.
Mhm.
So like that, obviously. Commander Shepard was a good one, too.
I really liked Edgar as a kid from Final Fantasy VI, but that's bad. That's not a person you want to emulate.
I can see where you're coming from with that, though. That's such a good answer, Joe.
And
I
I had an
You
older
want the-
brother too, and my older brother was bigger than me and stronger than
Oh,
me. So
yeah.
there's a lot
Oh,
there.
man.
Yeah, I feel like actually that makes me think like I feel like this could be a little bit better if it was like pointed at a specific
Genre?
like franchise or a specific game that had a lot of characters in it. It's like which one of these characters is you? It's a lot harder like when it's just so wide
Yeah.
open.
Yeah.
I'm going to break the rules a little bit and pull. Go ahead, Glenn.
Oh, I was saying like if I were gonna go with like Jones's with Final Fantasy VI, like I was like maybe Cyan, like that might be me.
This is not a video game character, but Deku from My Hero Academia is somebody that I really connect with because of the way that he freaks out about superheroes, how excited it makes him, how happy it makes him, is how I feel about video games. And so like when he's sitting at his computer screen, like violently shaking his head, watching an All Might video for like the 40th time, it's like, oh, I did that with the Persona 5 trailers. Like, I feel you, man. And so I feel the connection there with a character in a way that I haven't in a while. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Stuff too, because a lot of my favorite video game memories were getting into characters' heads that were nothing like me, and so I think when I think back at my favorite characters, like they're all different genders, different ages, different life, decisions. And so that's why it was fascinating to assume their role.
Yeah, it is interesting when you get into those spaces where you have a character who's very defined, but then you have these choices, and then you start mixing in your own like if I were to completely purely think in terms of what this character would do based on what's been told me, that's very different choices than what I would make, and then finding that middle ground. Like even in the new Life is Strange, like playing as Chloe, it's like, well, I don't want to graffiti that thing, so Chloe, grow up. It's like.
Brad, did you pick one?
I have no idea.
Okay, Sephiroth for Brad.
Cool.
Vincent Valentine.
Yeah, Sephiroth for sure.
Oh, Vincent Valentine, the Sephiroth was just a joke. Vincent Valentine, I can actually kind of see.
I'll take that. I'll take any.
It's a high compliment. It is. It's a high compliment. Damiani?
Not really. I also feel like we've maybe had a similar question in the past.
We probably have.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I said it's hard. I think the answer was in response to Huber asking me. I think so. I don't necessarily identify with any single character. I can give you stuff that like elements of characters that not maybe related to, but wanted to see represented. Here, I'll just give you a story. When Final Fantasy X came out, I told my mom I loved Tidus's hair, and I wanted to dye my hair and get a haircut like that.
Nice, dude.
And my mom just looked. She goes, "Oh, she didn't know what the character was." So I was explaining to her how she's like, "Oh, cool. Okay, what does he look like? Let me see the hair." As soon as she saw the cover art, she just looked at me and goes, "No, you're not getting that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So she just rejected that immediately. It's like, "You're not. Your hair's not looking like that." I was like, "Okay."
This is one of the greatest Damiani stories I've ever heard.
I have to look at the thought art now.
Oh my god!
My hair, my hair can never be styled like Tidus. I was like, "Okay, all right. Thank you for the reality check, Mom. That's so nice."
Just need to remind our audience, the community showcase post will be going up soon on Patreon. If anybody out there, if even a really drawing ability and or $10 or above on patreon.com/easyallies. I invite you, nay, I request.
Demand.
I think you go
It's
for
really
it.
good. So good.
It's really good. Okay, thank you for that, Professor Metal Gear. Our next one comes in from Rebecca. It says, "Hey guys, what's your favorite overall cast of characters from a single RPG/JRPG?"
Ooh.
Damn, son, this is a hard one. I'd like 3 immediately jump to mind.
6.
Which 3?
Baldur's Gate 2,
Whoa.
Chrono Trigger.
That's on mine.
I really like the cast of multiple Final Fantasy games. 9, Final Fantasy 9 would probably be the one.
Is it Steiner, dude? Goat?
Beatrix, man. Steiner and Beatrix.
The goat couple.
Yeah, one of the greatest.
Persona 4 though.
Persona, yeah, absolutely.
Persona 4, great cast. Yeah, Persona 5 is great too.
But we gotta pick one. We gotta pick one.
As a group?
No, individually.
Oh.
I'm picking 5x7, dude. Easy for me. Easy.
For me, it's either Suikoden 1 or 2.
Nice.
And that's 108 people in each game.
That's not a cast. That's an army.
Yeah, it literally is.
Yeah.
Damiani, just say Final Fantasy 4.
Oh yeah, of course. I was trying to think of something like a non-Final
it.
Fantasy answer.
Kane Cecil, dude.
Do you like the cast of 4 more than 10?
Easily.
Yeah, you do.
I'm asking Damiani.
We speak for Damiani now.
Yeah. We are Damiani now.
I mean, that's hard because I mean, from 4's time period, obviously, if you look at it now, it's like, wow, that was very simplistic stuff.
Yeah.
Those are very typical tropes, but it was also like one of the first to do that in games. So it's like, oh, okay, well, it's at the beginning, so it's good. Mindset that despite all the memes and stuff around Tidus, I actually think he is a good character. It is the trope of the kind of like the whiny, like I won't accept my situation, like either because it's usually a character who's like very spoiled, used to having life go his way or his or her way, sorry, and then they are thrown into something that like challenges them, like, and they pretty much can't go back to the way it was, and then they whine a lot about it for a long time, but then they come to realize that you need to accept it and you need to change. I think the other character who's the most like this, which is a cast I like as well, because I'm trying to think of another cast, Tales of the Abyss, Luke pretty much goes through this whole situation as well, where everyone pretty much by the middle of the game hates him because of how spoiled and stuff he is, and like even you, the player, just be like, wow, this character sucks. Like, why is this even the main character? But it's like they're setting up for the big change, like the payoff. And if you watch anime, with a certain anime series that involves a character named Simone, who everyone's like, hey, that character stinks. He's like this little kid and stuff. What happened to the cool dude? Oh, something happened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, something happened to that guy, and you're like, why am I gonna watch the show anymore? You killed the best character, and I just spoiled it. Thank you, but I didn't name the show, so good luck figuring out.
Damiani, you did just spoil like one of the best parts.
Yeah, it happens the first like few episodes. You're like, who would be dumb enough to do this in a show that's gonna be 26 episodes? I'm not watching this. You stick with it. You watch it. You watch that payoff, and it's like, oh shit, son! Like, whoa. This was good. Like, this was really good. I was doubting things for a long time, and that's pretty much like Tidus is in that like trope right there of like you really are like, what's going on with this character? They're not good, and then you're like, yo, all right, here we go. You turned it around, baby. It's a comeback story.
Brad, we like 100% have to, no matter what, get Damiani on the Gurren Lagann Easy Anime when that happens. Just that emotion right there. That was great.
Yeah.
Blood, you got a favorite cast in RPG/JRPG?
Oh goodness.
I want to make like a super cast.
Super cast.
Yeah.
All of them?
Yeah.
I mean, Final Fantasy IV I like a lot, Final Fantasy VI I like a lot, Mass Effect, Witcher.
There you go.
Yeah.
Witcher was like the fourth one he named.
Yeah.
Betrayal.
Just pick Witcher, I guess. I don't know. I'll be a typecast.
You know,
characters,
Bloodworth.
but,
Yeah, it's Witcher for you. Don't lie.
There are a lot of games to pick from, but like I think like at least 80% of the appeal of Final Fantasy IX is the characters. I think the other remaining percent is the world. But like I don't think I've ever cared about characters more in an RPG, at least at the time that I played it, than Final Fantasy IX. Although the Persona 4 cast definitely leaves a mark for sure. Ian, why'd you have to bring that up?
I was amazed that you didn't.
Yeah, it just when I bring Persona into it, like then it complicates everything.
It's a whole new bucket of worms.
Oh man, you know, cast Super Mario RPG.
Yeah.
I wish we gotta fit.
Video games.
This is too complex.
This is a hard one.
How's that Paper Mario going? I never did
Paper
get
Mario. I think we've got 2 crystal stars left. So we're decently far. Not that there isn't a huge chunk left, but 1,000 Year Door is incredible. Like that is a 5-star game, and it's like I've streamed so many cool things. Like playing through Xenoblade was really awesome, and I was so worried that after playing Xenoblade, like the next thing isn't going to be as fun. Like Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door has exceeded all expectations, and like if you ever want to know what good localization is, like it's that game. It's incredible. Everybody should play it. There should be a GameCube Virtual Console on the Switch, and Nintendo gives everyone 1,000 Year Door for free, and that you cannot
we're
eat
sorry.
food until you at least play 5 hours of it. That's what they should do. Sorry, what were you saying again?
Oh, I was just saying, and they give it to you for free, and they just say we're sorry, or they say kept you waiting, huh? Who knows?
But before you play it, you have to watch a 5-minute ad for Battlefront 2. That's not on Nintendo Switch. Our next question comes in from Michael. Since you fine gents are now becoming more accustomed to streaming, why not do an extra live stream?
Yeah, scheduling. That's something that.
Yeah, that was.
We do want to though. Sometime. Yeah. Whoop! I'm all blurry.
So there are groups that do like it together. They do an extra live stream together, or they have each individual do a set period of time for it. What do you think you guys would prefer?
The second sounds easiest, and I think that's something we could all
contribute to.
The big daisy chain of streams.
Yeah,
it could be fun.
Yeah, and everybody.
I think it could be a combo of those things as well. But
begin or end with the big group thing.
Yeah, I think we would just really need to look into it strongly enough to be ready. Like I think this year, like I don't know why it's timed when it's timed. If it's always timed that way every year, but it just felt like, yeah, it felt a little insurmountable for when we realized when it was happening and everything else that was going on in that time period. So it's just like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, because like every game came out at the exact same time.
Plus, we had just done a couple of the release streams for the disaster, so I felt a little bit weird about like hopping into another thing right about that time. And now, like looking back, like there was enough of a gap where it would not have been so weird, but it was like around the time that we were realizing when it was happening.
The thing is we've had, in my opinion, one of the strongest years for like consistent high quality video game releases that we've ever had throughout the entire history of video games. And I was like, it's fine. 2018 is going to be awesome. Everybody will be happy. It'll be fine, but it won't be this crazy. But then when they announced Valkyria Chronicles 4, I'm like, all bets are off. Like we're doomed once again to be drowning in glory. Like there's no hope. They did it. They made the game that everybody wanted, and they keep doing this. They just keep making the games people want, and if they keep doing that, we're all gonna die, and it'll be great.
We're all gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just had to get that out. All right. Next one is from Beaten Down Brian. Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Apologies for the 2 questions, but both should be quick. Which do you think is going to be harder, deciding GOTY in a year like 2017 or deciding it in a year with maybe no real standout game? Well, that's already happened. Any plans for the category in Easy A's GOTY talks? Maybe like a best villain, cough, Frau Engel, cough. I think it's harder in a year where everything is good. Like this year.
Yeah. We're going to have Mike saying, I'm not voting, going on like that because he can't pick.
If he does that again, I'm going to punch him in the stomach. Not allowed, Mike. I'm not really going to do that.
Well, the year that we gave it to Hearthstone, I felt was very much along that line.
I would tend to go the other way because it's like I think if even in this year, I think now that there's so many amazing games, I think now that we're getting down, seeing how the Game Awards are working out, we're kind of like starting to finalize like our opinions on stuff. That's just from my perspective. Like I can't speak for any of the other allies, but like I remember Hearthstone. I remember that year was so difficult because everything was like good, but there was just nothing. There was no like battle. There was no, like, well, maybe we can talk about something outside of those 2 games that are clearly competing for GOTY. It was like there were 8 that were like pretty good.
Yeah, they're all Bs.
And so it seemed like that year, every time I checked in with another website, it was like, oh, that game. Okay. It's like Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
Or Mass
so
Effect. Like,
is that when Shadow War came out around
Shadow
then?
War was that year.
Yeah, that was the like one
that was getting GOTYs. We're just like,
remember when a bunch of people gave Shadow of Mordor GOTY and we were all like, nah.
What?
Right.
Nah.
Yeah, we're like, all right, the world has gone mad. I mean, that's the thing, where it's like everything is like equal quality. This year, it's like clearly there are the nominees,
Man, I just don't agree with that. Like, I don't think there's any nominee that I would be completely happy with.
This year?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Whoa.
Got to do it, man.
Yeah.
I feel like at least this year there are like of the games I think that are likely to win, none of them will upset me. You know, like
Yeah.
I'd be like if any of them won, I'm like, yeah, all right, sweet. You know,
cool.
like if I lose the votes, I'm like, okay, cool, awesome, that game rules.
Yeah.
Whereas like last year, I was like, I'm still like upset about it. I want to like gouge my eyes out because
Never
we're
forget.
so wrong.
Hey,
Never
Ian,
forget.
I noticed
We'll
like we
get
get
you to that point this year, Ian. Don't fret.
I want next month there to be a question in the Q&A like, hey, Ian, I noticed you don't have eyes anymore. Would you mind explaining to the patrons why you don't have eyes?
Started one GOTY last year, and I'm not over it.
Love and respect.
Love and respect.
It was a two-parter. I don't think we're gonna get into like smaller awards, like where there's less than a dozen of us, and I think like getting into like best moment, like best narrative, like that stuff you need like a big team for. Like that seems like a IGN GameSpot.
No, we can do best narrative.
Yakuza 0.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Yakuza 0.
Yakuza
There it
0.
is. Done. Ben, Ben, we're on the same page. Excellent. There you go.
Yeah, we have not yet figured out how we're going to actually organize the awards this year.
Yeah.
Sit down and figure that out in December.
We know we're doing them in January because more
Yeah.
people need time to finish more games.
Yep.
I still won't finish very many of them, I'm sure.
I want to do
They're
a
all 100 hours long.
I
Yeah,
wanna
that's the
do
problem with the first half of the year, man. They're all 100-hour games. Well, you guys
Yeah,
were lapping up Persona. I was playing through Mass Effect.
the 100-hour games are not done, everyone. We still got
December
they're still
1st.
coming.
December 1st, man. I'll be there.
I do want to do a category called coolest game, and I do want Persona 5 to win.
And then
Kyle
coolest
present it.
protagonist. Too cool.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Coolest protagonist.
We have fun. Thank you for the questions, Brian. Next one comes in from Dominic. He says, hey, allies. Let me say, first of all, how pleased I am that you guys streamed Space Channel 5 Part 2 as part of the Fancy 15 a while back. I missed that stream, and now learning about this, I'm very upset. I made Jones read out my rave of the game for a community comments video, and I rocked up to the first anniversary meet and greet in a bright orange shirt with the game's logo on it. I remember that, and I remember you. So naturally, I was pretty excited when Ian picked it out of the pile. Good job, Ian. I hope you guys get to stream it again before long, because there's a lot more hey and chew where that came from. On the subject of older games, you've all talked plenty about the 2017 games you're dying to catch up to, but what about the older games that you've played for the first time? What games older than a year or two were new discoveries and a highlight of your 2017? Mine is Resident Evil 4. That is a great game at any point to make your first time playing.
Good it holds up.
This is a win of a question.
I just bought Space Channel on Steam right now.
Right now, right this second.
I was like,
Live purchasing.
Space Channel 5. Purchased.
Go ahead, Brett.
I have one that I've played, but I never finished. But I kind of want to keep it secret for something down the line. I think some of you already know what it is. Some of you know what it is.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what it is. I think I know what it is. There were a lot of games that I had played before but never finished. Like I played through Mario Sunshine this year, and I'd never finished it before.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says. Mario Sunshine is an amazing game.
Yes,
Like
I
I had
love it.
such a good time playing through it. And I never finished Yoshi's Island. And that was another game that I played through.
Oh, wow.
And the original Pikmin I had never finished and played through that as well.
Nice,
There's
Ben.
been a lot of Nintendo hits, I guess, but all of those were delectable experiences for me. Anyone else?
Don't slash my eyes for this, but I've still never finished Metal Gear 1, Solid 1.
Whoa.
That was
I know.
like the one.
I know.
You could have said anything else.
Now you're going to slash me, I know.
You can make it right, Ian.
I know.
Yeah,
I
make
need
it
to
right.
make it right. I need to make it right.
It's
Ian,
not too long either.
Ian,
I
I
know,
will
I'm
give
playing-
you. I will
I've
give
played it, I
you
just
money
haven't
to play through Metal Gear 1 on stream. First
Deal.
experience.
Yeah,
Please.
Ian, I'll give you some money
plead.
too. I'll give you some money.
All right, sure.
I'll pay you a few dollars.
Little known fact, Ian. That's the greatest game that was ever made by human beings.
Oh, okay. Great. Looking forward to it.
Brandon Blood Damiani?
Sunshine,
What?
I think was a great pick.
I can do some
was
stuff
true.
that I played through this year.
Blood, you just beat Dark Souls 3. Why are you not talking
They said
about
more
that?
than a year. They said more than a
That
year
was
too
last
old.
year.
That was just last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while, Blood.
It's
Show
not
some
been that
respect.
long.
Show some respect, Blood. God.
Your mic.
Damiani, you've been streaming RPGs that I don't think you've played
can't
before,
hear
haven't finished, like Rogue Galaxy or Xenogears and all that stuff. Like, is there any of those that stick out to you?
He can't speak.
He's muted. You're muted.
Muted.
Oh no.
We can't hear you, our love.
Muted.
It's
No.
been happening for a long time.
There's no volume.
Whoa.
Oh, now he's muted. Wait, no.
Oh, still muted. Oh boy.
Damiani, no.
It doesn't look muted. It looks like his mic is gone.
Yeah.
Watch.
Damiani, we will feel free to chime in at
Now
any
you're
point.
Hello?
But,
There
there we
we
go.
go.
There we
There we
go.
go.
There we go. I was wondering. Okay. Whatever. Xenogears, Rogue Galaxy,
Oh,
and Skyrim. I was talking about Skyrim earlier. I haven't finished any of these though, but playing through them a significant amount. Rogue Galaxy, I'm still playing through though. So I
How
said
is
I-
Rogue
I-
Galaxy?
It is pretty good for the most part. It is very grindy.
It's trash.
Oh.
Very, very, very grindy, but it's only grindy. It's grindy because in each new area, you are all of a sudden severely underleveled. Enemies will wreck you. So it's pretty easy to do, I guess. Someone pointed it out. I was like, I should be doing this. As soon as you start a new area, right by the save point, burn everything just to like kill stuff really quick. You'll level up, and then things will be easier. And you're right by a shop, so just keep buying more potions. Blah blah blah. Grind there for about 10, 15 minutes, and then you can move on, and you'll be cool.
Nice.
So it's just you go to planet. You're on each planet has about 3 acts, and it does feel very drawn out. Each planet, it definitely, because a lot of it is running down corridors and fighting enemies and random encounters, and that part of it is just like a product of it came out so late. It came out after PS3 had come out on PS2. On one of those types of games, I believe, or it came out the same year as PlayStation 2 was coming out, and it's still a kind of has those PS2, PS1 era tropes in there. Xenogears, though, just want to talk about the battle system in Xenogears. I was blown away when I first was doing it, and chat was explaining to me all the secret combos. You just gotta do them enough, and then they'll register. And I was just like, "Yo, this is the coolest looking battle system I've seen. Feels like a fighting game. I'm doing these crazy inputs to do these cool looking moves and stuff. That game is holy crap, it drags on. I know about the last disc too. I know all about the last disc being a bunch of text because they didn't have the budget to finish it, and they picked let's give it an ending versus let's not end it. So but yeah, it's definitely worth playing for the first few hours just to understand that game's battle system and the story, what it's trying to do. And yeah, I talked enough about Skyrim. I don't need to go back to that.
Blood, chat mentioned Earthbound, which I think is worthy of bringing up for sure.
Yeah,
for
that
you.
was more last year. What I was thinking for this year was I just
Destroyed.
Fatal Frame 2.
Ooh.
Nice.
I didn't get to finish it, but I put a good solid 3 hours or so into it, and it was really, really good to go to that game. Hadn't played any Fatal Frames before.
They're good.
They are good. Okay, our next question comes in from Caesar. A Netflix original series, GameTrailers, The Reign of an American Great. Episode 1, The Humble Origins, fade into a high school kid seeing Grease Lightning dressed as Han Solo. Hello, allies. After months of negotiations, the cast has been locked, but the Netflix people now want your input into the script. What is one passage that each of you think deserves a spot in the GT Histories TV series? Keep in mind, your passage doesn't have to actually include you. If you have a story from other coworkers that you think is worth including, we'll have lawyers clear the rights. Finally, Jones, don't even mention arriving late for your rehearsal dinner because you were finishing up the Final Fantasy Retro. That one is locked. Love and respect,
Okay.
Caesar.
Good.
Man.
The one thing that I would like really want to do if this actually happened is there was definitely different eras of GT, and there's a long period of time with GT where a lot of people doing a lot of the work weren't that well known. Like there weren't bylines on reviews and stuff like that. And so like Miguel Lopez is a name that I immediately think of that a lot of people may not know from Game Trailers and Easy Allies, who like really was a great writer and like really helped people hone down their scripts. And it's like, no, this is like a very integral part of that history and like would need to be included. So that's what I would suggest.
Go for it, Damiani.
Let's see. Of the stories that like could be in this, a lot of untold stories that you'll have to save for like the deathbed someday. But a good one that could be told is there needs to be an episode about the Xan in Zelda footage.
Yeah.
And
double capture.
Ian knows this. Missing Zelda footage, and it's just it'd be like an office gag almost. Like every day, Bobby Burns just comes into work, and the first thing he sees is me at Station 1. He goes, "Hey, Damiani, what you doing?" Capturing Zelda. But wait, you just did that yesterday. Oh, all the footage got deleted from the Xan. Well, we need it again. And he's like, "You just did it yesterday." And look at the Xan. Look, here's the Xan flow chart here. Here's the pie chart. Here is everyone else in like Spike Digital. Here is Damiani and Zelda footage on the Xan. He goes, "It just keeps getting bigger, Damiani. It keeps getting bigger to alarming proportions." Yeah, but we didn't get that specific shot in Zelda. I gotta play through the whole game again today, so gotta get that shot.
Just like Marco in general was so important to me, especially like in the later years. It was just so nice like going to that bay and just kind of like let loose. But like I loved like going to Bobby's like office and seeing just like a dry erase board of just the most amazing art mural I've ever seen. And it's like, so this is E3. So like we're uploading stuff into the UFO, and then this is Bobby, and he's taking that to the space headquarters, and then the footage comes down from our space satellite down to and it's like, wow, that's a lot of. Somebody should take a picture of that. There's so much art that wound up on dry erase boards that never got the credit it deserved.
Damiani, when you were repeatedly capturing Zelda footage, was that your happiest moment in life? Like, was that a
So like the honest thing was I did not like having to replay. So what would happen, there'd be an episode of Pop Fiction, there'd be some top 10 list, and we needed a specific shot. And Jones has mentioned this before, I think, about like review capture and stuff, where certain people play a certain way. And when you're trying to cut a review, Jones, you're like, just stop for a second, like do this. Don't act like you know what you're doing. Act like you don't know what you're doing to get a better shot, because it makes a thing. Well, obviously I was playing like, oh, I have my way to play through this. I'm just playing through this each time because it's faster and I'll get like all the footage. And it'd be like, crap, I didn't do this thing. It's only at this spot. Oh, great. We're not supposed to like use any other people's footage. Back in the day, it's like, that was really taboo. It's like, guys, do not stop taking stuff from never use a YouTube video or anything that's not an official trailer. We'll get in so much trouble. You can't do that. So it's like, all right, we got to capture it ourselves. And if there wasn't a save file at that spot, you're like, crap, you got to go play through it. So it'd always be like, oh, okay, Ocarina of Time. Oh, I beat everything and have everything unlocked, or it's right at the save with some hack stuff at the beginning. I'm like, okay, those are your two options to choose. So it'd be like, okay, we need a shot of doing this mini game in Ocarina of Time for like top 10 mini games or something. It's like, I never do that mini game. I never stop for that. So it's like, great, I have to play through this whole game again. There's a point where it's like, I played this game enough. I don't want to. Like, the point was I played through these games to have like comprehensive like playthroughs so that we could go back to that footage. Anyone's cutting anything for Zelda, here's all these full playthroughs. It's like a nice like little library of footage. And every time they would go through and media manage and archive stuff, there would be times when Zelda footage just get like removed. Like, oh, this is an old game we don't use anymore. Bye. I'm like, oh no, that was the whole point. It's supposed to stay there so we don't have to do this again. So it wasn't every day, but every few months I'd find out, oh, your Zelda 1 playthrough is gone off the Xan. I'm like, I hate you people. I was like, why do you keep doing this to me?
Yeah, it was funny because I wasn't in G4 for long enough to know whether it was useful in the long term or not. But like one of the things I did in my like 2 months or whatever at G4 was, I played through all of Twilight Princess like before it came out, and it was like a stack of like 23 tapes, those DV cam tapes in like the purple cases.
Yeah, those things.
And I was doing it for cheat, so like I did have like secrets and like boss battles multiple times and mini games and all that kind of crazy stuff. But in terms of stories, I think we've got to like have a whole set of stories from when we had the old capture equipment, the HD deck and the scan converter. And remember, like we had that 60-pound Pelican case that we had to drag around. Damiani and Brandon might be the only ones that remember this.
Yeah, the Pelican case thing was annoying. Anything with the DV tapes was kind of annoying. It wasn't too bad, but like when we went, I remember when we went to the capture system at the motel, the building, with all like using Final Cut and stuff to capture and Black Magic stuff. I was like, what is all of this? I mean, I was like, finally we're doing digital capture, but it was just such like a weird change. And I found it ironic how it was hard to do like SD capture sometimes. Like, it used to be so easy with the DV tapes and stuff, and it was like, oh, now it's like we have one deck that we can like have to like fight to get.
Yeah.
But back in the day, that was insane.
But
all
that
that
case,
stuff.
though,
Yeah,
that case has so many different. I mean, because the equipment was crazy expensive for one, and it was crazy heavy, and like you'd have to roll that case out to like some event and then like pull everything out and like plug all of this stuff in and then try to get a signal from the game console. And then what was crazy is I did an event in Austin. What was it? It was like Gamecock. That was their name at the time.
Oh yeah, that thing.
I did like a whole. It's called EIEIO or something. It was like really weird. It was like at Stubbs Barbecue.
I remember that.
And I went around almost pretty much by myself and like dragged that case all around that backyard, going to station recording things, and then I flew back. And somehow Southwest, I got booked on Southwest, and they lost the case. This case is worth more than my year's salary, and it's 60 pounds and it's like 3 foot tall. How do you lose it? and I was like, I was trying to do what I could, and they said it's like, okay, we'll call you whatever tonight, and then like Shane was upset that I wasn't doing one. I'm like, what else am I supposed to do? Just like call them every 10 minutes to see if they have it. And then eventually they said they found it and it had gone to Denver. And I'm like, how did it get to Denver? Like, I went from Austin to Dallas to LA. It's like, it's got on some other plane entirely. And then they said that they were going to deliver it to me. And so I was like, okay, I'll stay late at work. And I was waiting. They still didn't deliver. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go home. I'll give you my home address. And then finally at like 12 or 1 in the morning, this car comes up and it like has the case. And I finally got it. And then I told the driver a little bit of my story. And he's like, yeah, that's Southwest. That was his response. Oh, man.
Yeah, we gotta have stories about the old big trips to TGS and Gamescom. It's the first one. No, first only one I went to for games. I only went to each one once. Gamescom, because our luggage was delayed, so we had like no clothes or anything.
Yeah, Ryan went out and bought us all clothes.
Bought us clothes. I was like, oh, that's a good thing. TGS too, like lots of like fun stories from that as well. Just the whole thing. I forget if you remember it was the year 13 was coming out in Japan. So it was like the last event for 13's coming out. And like Square Enix was like having a meltdown over something that happened with another outlet. So like apparently all US outlets weren't allowed to get any kind of footage from Final Fantasy 13 at TGS. And I remember like their head of their communications being there, like in Japan, like having to like, it was me and Johnny Chang, and we were trying to get direct feed of 13 and they were letting us do it, but then, or not, maybe it was camera footage, but they wanted to check it because before we left, and then they asked us, like they looked at who we were and stuff, and they were like, "Oh, GameTrailers," and then like they had like the longest meeting and stuff, and like we had no idea what was going on, and then like they told us like, "Oh, you have some videos posted right now from TGS," which we did from earlier. He goes, "You need to take those down first, then we'll talk more." I was like, "What?"
Wow.
I was like, okay. I remember Ryan said like, "Okay, so like I talked with them, and like the deal is like we can go back with them there. They will watch through the like our camera. They will basically control our camera and like shoot what we're allowed to shoot, and then end it, and then we could post that one thing, and that is all we can post from TGS from Square Enix." I was like, "Oh my gosh." It was just so insane. Yeah, I was like, because it stunk. We spent so much time there doing like playthroughs of the 13 demo they had there, and they're like, you can't use any of that. I was like, oh, so frustrating. I didn't encounter that before.
All of that effort for Final Fantasy 13.
13.
Man.
There was a one of our trips to Japan. I mean, it'd have to be like a season finale. It was lots of drama, lots of stuff. Like I think it contributed to people quitting, and like all kinds of crazy stuff happened. It was a good trip. It was a fun trip.
Nice.
I remember the time that we were 37 hours of travel time just to get to Gamescom in Germany too. That was a good one. Where we'd all been awake for like 40 hours by the time we got there. Club 245 though, my Meta Bay with Justin, like that was before I was on like a show or anything. So all my energy had to come out in tormenting my coworkers, I guess. But yeah,
It was a good time.
Oh man, we would play music in there. Like one time we had a fog machine in there. Chair apocalypse, where all the chairs kept ending up in there.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
I just remember watching like many K-pop videos in that.
Oh yeah, we had all kinds of K-pop videos going all the time. Man,
Brad,
I have one thing I would want in it. Just one little scene. When Ben was reviewing Bloodborne, I remember he was in the capture room, the door shut, and we were all like on media blackout. No one wanted to see. Ben walks out of the capture room
to like go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and Mike's like walking by or something like that, just stares at Ben directly in the face and says, "Don't look at me." Really serious. And Ben had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird and perfect. Like that's what GOTY does. Just so stupid.
Anytime anybody is reviewing a game now that like another person is interested in, we aggressively say, "Don't look at me."
Yeah.
To each other. Yeah, that is such a great moment, Brad. That's
Like,
one of the all-time best.
Do you remember when we were in the mail room at the last office? I think you were reviewing the Bloodborne DLC, Ben, and your desk was kind of in the middle, and me and Kyle and Hubert could all see your screen, and we're like trying not to look over at you.
But that was like what we had.
Yeah,
we
were like yelling at you to turn the TV or something like that. Anything we could do. Oh man.
I forgot about that Defy office. Yeah, where all of you guys were in one room and then Don and I were in the other room.
Yeah.
And we had a whole TV and Roku dedicated to just constantly playing movies.
That mail room was us at our most nonsensical. Like that, there were just days where we would just be shouting nonsense.
Oh, yeah, I could hear you guys screaming at each other almost all the time from our...
Poor Matt Blair.
Like singing a lot of the Digimon opening theme song, a lot, like way more than is funny.
Yeah,
like,
just Mike would not stop. Like the syndrome, out of control.
Yeah, like just saying "digital world" over and over and over again,
over and over,
and then recording ourselves doing that, and then watching ourselves in the recording just saying "digital world" over and over again. Yeah, that happened. All right. We got to move on. We're running out of time. We haven't gotten through that many.
This has been a slow Q&A this month.
Yes, it's been slow. We're going to speed it up.
We've been unhinged.
We've been unhinged. Christoph asks, hello, allies. First of all, thank you for your hard work. pumping out so many videos and reviews during this last quarter has been probably hard with all the games bundled at the same time, all the games bundled together at the same time. Now, my question is to the panel. Have you ever considered in your reviews not giving it a score and letting the article, written or VO, stand for itself and explain the view on the game? I personally never like labeling something with a score and try to give my 2 cents on things and let that speak for itself. I like scores. That's just
Me too.
That's my own personal opinion. I think no scores can be good, and it's actually been very liberating with Don't Skip, just being able to kind of focus on what you want with a score. But I think when you're evaluating contemporary releases, the danger that you have with not putting a score on something is letting yourself be too wishy-washy and not really forcing yourself to nail down how you feel, because honestly, unless the game is like so remarkably bad that it feels cathartic, it's never fun shitting on a game. It's never fun tearing something apart. Or also, I think you run the risk the opposite way, where you do really like something. If you don't give a score on it, I think it's a little bit easier to kind of ignore maybe the very real problems that it does have. And so I think forcing yourself to decide, like, no, this game is actually a 3.5, not a 4, not a 5, whatever it is just helpful for you. And I think giving your audience shorthand information is always good as well.
Agree.
Yeah, well said, Ben.
What do you think, Blood? You have to deal with scores probably the most out of anybody.
I put them into text fields and such. I definitely feel like the score is it's a good place to kind of make your stand. It is weird. What's funny to me is there's always that faction of people that are like, isn't a 5 average and not a 7? And it's like, well, you could try to say that, but in the end, like the overall overarching community has decided what a 7 is and what a 5 is, despite what we may want to say differently. And the way I've kind of always thought about with a 5 is like, yeah, you have as many bad things in a game as good things, and those good things include stuff that you probably take for granted. And that's not a good place to be. That's really not a good place to be. And I think anything, if you looked at some of those games that came out, some people showed off from like the Wii U eShop, and like some of those that were like, just I don't know, like the UI was like, it looked like a text box, like a literal, like, just no font text box kind of thing. And just like, yeah, like games get a lot lower than people realize, just because they get so low that nobody has any time to put any attention to them.
Right. That's a good point. Anyone else? Any thoughts on scores, no scores, or are we ready to move on?
I agree with Blood, and it's always kind of been tempting to me to, like, what if just one time a month? I remember thinking this back at GT when we were definitely pumping out a lot more reviews than we are now at Easy Allies, and wondering, like, should we balance it by reviewing Barbie's Horse Adventure for the Game Boy Color? Like, should we do, it's like, should we actually, like, every now and then, like, just showcase, like, so we can tell people, like, this is a 1, like, in case you're thinking, like, we there are no 1s, like, they are, we just don't. If we played them and made videos about them to their audience, like, they would not help grow our audience. They would not be stuff that people wanted to watch. And then, but I kept thinking, like, is it, it feels unfair to be like, and now for the crappy game of the month, it's this. And then the people who made that game are like, thanks,
and usually I was looking for. You can, like, see those ones from far away, so, like, that's why we do so few reviews of terrible games, is because, like, Umbrella Chronicles sneaks up on you. Like, you think it'll be a 3 and then it's a 1, and you're like, okay.
I don't want reviews to become target practice, though. Like, that feels like it's defeating the whole point. Like, we're not doing it for the game. We're not evaluating the game based on its merit. We're doing it so we can be like, no, we give games 1s too, and that doesn't feel right. Like, that's what we're saying is, like, that it's not going to happen, because the only way it would happen is if we intentionally sought them out. Right.
Because like, those games aren't worth reviewing.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's just hard.
I think it's one of those things where, like, if we were able to review a lot more games, because there are games, I try to send you guys, I give you guys a list of stuff we get in all the time. And there's a lot of games that just nobody picks because they don't stand out or they don't have time for them or whatever. And I'm sure there are some 2-stars or 1-star games in those groups, but again, it's a matter of priority and time. Like, I guess that game Troll and I that came out actually ended up being pretty bad, and I was sort of curious about that when I saw the trailers and stuff. So that's a game that if potentially if I had a little bit more time, I would have got around to, and I would have been like, oh. But at the same time, I may have also gotten 2 or 3 hours into it and said, no, this is not worth the time to review it, and moved on to something else. So yeah, it's kind of weird making those decisions.
Bubsy, the Woolly Strike Back is a game that I wanted to check out, but yeah, not the right time. That is kind of the thing, though, that's both good and bad. Like, it's good for us because I think a lot of what we're covering, a lot of what we're talking about in podcasts are things that we're really interested in and have a lot to say about. And I think you guys are really interested in. Like, it's just a good time for games. But the consequence of having so many good games come out, I do feel like there's less time to kind of go off the beaten path and try different things. Like, not only do we only have 9 people, but like 5 of those people do reviews, and a lot of them, to get these reviews done in a competent way, you've got to invest 60, 70, 80 hours sometimes into these games. And it's just like, you just run out of room at some point, and it sucks. There's a lot of things that I want to do, but like, you have to make decisions somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a ton of good games that feel very uniquely. Yeah, you're kind of in this space where like there are multiple genres that only Ben Moore covers. Yeah. Like,
and the genres that I'm covering, they're not like, okay, you can play this for 6 hours and get it. It's like, no, you gotta really invest the time. But like, they deserve coverage. Like, it kills me. It bums me out. Like, it's unfortunate that we don't have the Divinity Original Sin 2 review up, but at least like we've been able to talk about it on multiple frame traps, and I'm still playing it and I'm still giving updates. But it kills me that we don't have anything up for Total War 2, Warhammer Total War 2, where like that game, based on my like pre-release coverage of it, seemed awesome, but it's like, well, I'm also playing Divinity Original Sin 2. Right. So it's like, it's hard covering those things, I think, with the level that we want to cover them at the same time sometimes.
Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 is after me. It's killing it. It's sitting right there. Like, yeah. No time.
And like Etrian Odyssey 5, like I love Etrian Odyssey 4 with like my heart and soul, and they're just, it's all right. Time to move on. Ulf himself asks, do you guys see yourself doing more funding drives similar for what you did for Box Peak in the future? A Patreon goal just for that month where all the extra money is used just for that project.
Yeah, probably. Get a new camera or something.
Mm-hmm. That worked out. Yes.
It seems like we have no more to say on it at this time.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right. Next one is from Hudson. He says, hi, allies. In light of the whole Battlefront 2 debacle and looking back on other games from the past, such as Battlefront 1 and Mass Effect Andromeda and even Destiny 2, I feel that more and more large titles are going the way of profit and a good enough for the consumer mentality. It seems like the focus on creating these games has changed from one of mastery to one of profit. We still have amazing standouts, Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, The Witcher 3, Divinity Original Sin 2, but it seems to me that so many other franchises have turned into a product of, well, they'll buy it because they want it and can't get it anywhere else. Lazy development practices, models made to sell DLC, invasive microtransactions, or even just lack of new ideas or ideas overall seem rampant in many of today's big titles. Do you feel like this is the case? And if so, do you think this will change? I just have an immediate response to this. I do think that invasive microtransactions are totally a thing or absolutely a trend, and you can use that language. But I don't think it's just that we have amazing standouts. Like, you included Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Witcher 3, Divinity Original Sin 2. Like, it's way more than that. Like, we've got Cuphead, we've got A Hat in Time. Like, we have games that you are totally amazing, like 9 out of 10 games that you forget about just because there have been so many this year. Nier Automata is a good example of that. Like
Yakuza 0.
Like, I think it is totally fair to be upset and be angry at things like Battlefront 2 or Shadow of War or Destiny 2 or Mass Effect Andromeda. I think there's criticism to be had here, but like, I think you also have to tell the other side of the story. Like, I don't think it's just like we're getting good games and are flooded by all this bad stuff. I feel like there's a pretty strong stream of good happening as well. And they may not have as big of budgets, maybe that's your point. But there's been a lot, like Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, we could just keep going, I think, with these games. So I don't know. That's just my feelings on it.
Well put.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
No, I think you summed it up well, because it's not something really that's going anywhere. I think the major thing, I think attitude upsets me more nowadays. That's the thing I don't see changing, and that's the thing I think needs to change, because I'm all for publishers to finding out creative ways to make money and think up fun stuff that people, you might have people in your audience like, oh, I got money to burn and I really like this game, so sure, I'll dump some more extra cash on it. But just the attitude, like, times have changed, and a lot of these big publishers are carrying themselves as if no, things are still going good. We're still making the games we did Battlefront 1 on now and Battlefront 1 and the old consoles, same game. And like, they are very different games. It's a very different era. And so it just that attitude upsets me kind of sometimes, that when publishers carry themselves in a way, pretend that they are the same old publisher that we know, and ignoring the fact that obviously their practices are changing.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next one here. Damian, I'm going to throw this one at you first. This is from Steven. What's a game series you absolutely love with all your heart, but have a real hard time, not for lack of trying, explaining the appeal of to others? For me, it's Infogames' Outcast or the Legacy of Kain series. Damn convoluted time travel plots. Everyone play and love these games, damn it.
Having difficulty explaining the appeal, though. But I don't know. Like, I feel like it has to be like an oddball game then.
I got one, dude.
You got one, Brad? Yeah,
Kingdom Hearts, man.
Really?
Explaining that game to people, like,
I mean,
yeah, it's like,
but
Disney
the appeal of
characters,
it, Disney,
mixing
yeah,
with
Disney
characters
Final
are like,
Fantasy.
people are just like, so? I'm like, oh. I'm like, well, the story's really crazy, and there's like time travel and stuff like that going on, everything, and it just draws people further away from it. Like, Brandon Jones is the perfect example of that. Of just all this chaos going around surrounding it, and everything. Like, Brandon's like, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm out. I'm like, but it's so cool.
Do you want Disney characters in anime situations? Do you like that? Then that's probably like the way you start. Like, okay, you're in.
Dominique, for most people, that's no.
No, for most people that's no, but like they at least understand. Oh, that's not for me.
Right. Yeah, but
like,
getting them to play it though, Damiani, like me explaining that to someone, no, that's not enough for them.
And then for combat, you say like real time combat. It's like, okay,
yeah,
it's not
and you got
turn-based.
keys that unlock different worlds and stuff like that.
I don't know.
That's not part of the
real-time
I don't know if
combat.
that's
Like,
part of the
enough an
appeal.
I don't think real time combat is enough of an appeal nowadays.
Yeah, like back in the day,
maybe
you could
like
definitely get away with
PS1,
that,
PS2 era, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
No,
when
not
it first came out, I would argue like that was part of the appeal.
Sure.
Now it doesn't hold that argument doesn't hold as much sway. But like if you're talking about like now explaining the appeal, like I would say maybe it's harder now. But like when it first came out, it's like it seemed like a no brainer. Honestly, to me, now it's just like, yeah, how do you justify one of the portable ones to somebody? What's the appeal of playing? Recoded. There is none.
There is none. Yeah, exactly.
Watch the movie. Don't even watch the movie.
Don't even
watch
watch
the end
it. It
of
all
the movie.
sucks. Yeah. Yeah, watch the last like 2 cutscenes and you're good.
I think like Etrian Odyssey is something that I've tried to explain the appeal of like probably like 10 times at this point, and I think it's really hard. But I also think that extends to dungeon crawlers in general. Like you could use like Legend of Grimrock or Wizardry or anything, and like if you're not like already tuned for that, if you aren't like a lizard brain individual, it might be hard because like you can break down the genre very quickly where it's like, well, it's really punishing and you have to redo a lot of the same stuff. True. There's a lot of grinding involved. True. a lot of it looks very similar. Like there's usually not a lot of huge environmental changes depending on the game. True. And it's like there's not a huge emphasis on story. True. And it's just like all of these negative things that you can lobby at them. And it's like, no, you have to experience it. You have to, like, the way that they refine the challenge and the sense of progression you get and the random nature of it, depending on the type of game, can be really good. And so, like, dungeon crawlers, I think, are something that don't get enough love that I wish people would give enough love. Also, extend that to Muso games. I think people who either, like, have no experience with the genre or a very selective experience with the genre, and it's like, no, I think there are a lot more, and I've just recently been awakening to this. I think Muso games are more interesting than a lot of times they're given credit for. And I think that sucks. Brad doesn't buy it. Brad doesn't buy that
I
shit.
don't know, man. Like, I tried Muso games. Like, started with Dynasty Warriors. Dynasty Warriors 2 is when I started, and I even tried what is it, Hyrule Warriors or whatever. Should like that game. And I was just like, nah.
Have you played Dragon Quest Heroes yet? Like Dragon Quest Heroes 1?
Yeah, I have the first one. Yeah.
Okay. Did you like that?
For like 2 hours.
All right. I'm not gonna win Brad over.
I wish I liked games like that more.
For as obsessed as I was with Disney Infinity, people would like message me and they're like, "I'm at Toys R Us now. Should I get it?" And I was like, "It's really expensive. I don't know."
That's why they went out of business, Jones.
I know I own every figure and go to every event and review every game and stream it every week, but like, it's pricey.
Yeah, Jones, it's funny that you're saying that because I have like the inverse with time where I've had people be like, "Hey man, it seems like you really like Xenoblade Chronicles. Should I buy it?" I'm like, "Do you have 100 hours? Like maybe, but are you just gonna buy it and is it just gonna sit on your shelf? Like maybe that's not practical for you depending on your situation." So I don't know. How about you, Ian?
I don't know. I so much more often run into the opposite of this problem, where people try to sell me on a thing that I'm just not gonna be into.
Yeah, I've had this happen for sure.
So I can't. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So yeah, I can't really think of one where I've tried to get people to. I remember trying to get my parents to read the book Redwall when I was a kid, and they just wouldn't do it. I remember that. Well, I'll try to think of a game. If I do, I'll mention it.
Sure. We're going to move on to the next one here. This one is from Richard Hogue. Nice, short and to the point. What is one thing that each of you would change about working at Easy Allies if you could? Driving.
Interns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Studio space.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna go down the staffing route, probably a community manager.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, we need that.
We need that.
Damiani? Ian?
Better camera, more time in just life.
Yeah, more time in life.
Get more things done.
30. Can we move to 36-hour days?
Yeah. Just move the sun a little bit.
If we could get a studio on Sawtell Boulevard, that would make me very happy.
Right next to Gina.
You know, businesses keep going out of business in that Max Karaoke building. We could probably scoot in there.
That's and Nagia right there. Yeah, let's
take
do
over
it.
that Blue Tusk building that used to be the yogurt land.
Oh,
And that would be
That's
probably like the most destructive thing that we can do.
Ramen every day.
Well, I mean, that whole street is just a golden land of happiness. Yeah.
Playground.
Karaoke
All right.
just all the time. Oh,
Let's say we
I want
do
that.
2 more questions. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one comes in from Brad. He says, I have a nephew who is on the autistic spectrum. When he was about 3, he started asking me to play games for him. His favorite ended up being Hohokum on PS4. Something about the music, animations, and funny characters really resonated with him. So much so, it's all he'd want to see. Over the course of a couple of years, playing for about 45 minutes at a time, we eventually beat the game together. With the holidays around the corner, I'm curious if the Allies have any favorite memories of playing games with child inside or outside of your families. My parents have a Wii, And there's this game that my girlfriend and I bought them for like $12 at a Target. It's like Birthday Cake Bash or something. It's not good. It's really bad. And it's like the whole premise of it is that you're these kids like making your ideal birthday party, and you are like playing these mini games. It's basically Mario Party, but as you complete these mini games, you're building this fantasy party or cowboy themed party or whatever. And it's like you do like jumping races, you like stack cakes on top of each other. It's like branded from an actual baking company. I don't remember what the company is, but my little sister, who is 18 years younger than me, loves it so much. And like my parents don't play a lot of games, they don't understand games, but we've played this with each other enough that they know how to control it, they know what the games are. And so like every year we'll have a night where we'll play this like Birthday Cake Bash game together on the Wii. We'll like dig up the Wii, dust it off, and play it together. And so that's really fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Any other family child like showing a kid a game? I wish Kyle was here because I think he'd have some good ones.
I was not here for this, but we have close friends that have 2 little boys, and like I'm just like all about everything. Every time I go over, I'm like, what's the show? What's the game? They've moved on to that. Okay, interesting. To just try to get like put a gauge on like the attention span of like the 5 to 10-year-old. And I loved that. I'm curious to hit Damiani up with this one, but he was playing Zelda, and he's like, "Hey Amanda, you should play Zelda." And she was like, "Oh, okay, I play a lot of Zelda. Let me like help you with some stuff." And like his like sense of progression, like he wasn't that far, but was constantly pushing himself in difficult areas. And she's like, "Why don't you just kind of go over here and maybe level up a little bit and get some stuff?" And he's like, "Nope, that's the toughest thing in the game. Got to go get those." And she's like, "Well, we have a stick, so maybe not the best idea to do that now." And she goes up against the mages. It was an ice maze. There's bouncing around up in the air. And she's like, "Oh, let me just go to fire arrows." And he's like, "No, you can't use a fire arrow because it'll drop less loot." She's like, No, I didn't. No. Like, that's not a thing. And he's like, "Pretty sure." She's like, "You're 9. I'm in my late 30s. Can I like maybe because there's some trust here? Like, my husband is a gaming journalist. Like, maybe I know." And he's like, "Don't do it." She's like, "All right." So like with the stick and like wood arrows, she's like trying to take down this thing that's like way over leveled to please this 9-year-old. Like, I just love that situation. Like,
that's really good.
Don't use them.
Our final question for the day comes in from Silent Consonant. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully we'll have a great Thanksgiving coming up. A few simple questions. What was the best part of your Thanksgiving? So we kind of answered that. If anybody has like a difference from memory or food, we can go into that. But we have 2 other questions here. Who went Black Friday shopping, and what was your haul? So like if you have any.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it was meant to happen after.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we can still work this question. The way that I read it for some reason is like, do you have any strong Black Friday memories? Most important question as we move to winter: how many of you, the native Cali boys, have experienced a blizzard? Brett, have you ever experienced a blizzard? Wow.
No. Oh yeah, dude. No, I remember being in Boston my freshman year at Emerson and looking out the window and seeing, it was like the end of Total Recall where the clouds like whoa, and like seeing like I could see the Boston Common, and I could see trees and the sky and buildings and everything, and this cloud just came up and white, and then all of a sudden like you couldn't see out the window, and I looked on the other side of the street because it had windows on both sides, the north-south street, and the snow was going sideways. I was like, whoa. So there's some good skiing here in California, so like I've been up. That was strange.
Yeah, that was like every day growing up.
Right. I remember I just remember that one of my favorite moments was talking. I looked at the guy wrong in college, but he was like, "Oh yeah, I used to get up every morning. We go out, we shoveled the driveway." And I just kind of looked at him like, "Shovel?" And he looked at me and he's like, "You don't know what the hell I mean about shoveling." He's like, "You're shoveling. You're out in the front yard picking your rose bushes up. Me shoveling is in the driveway every Sunday morning with my friend." I'm like, "Okay, I didn't say anything. Sorry."
That's funny.
That was a dumb California guy on that day.
We'd have to like chip ice off the driveway to like not spin out and hit the side of the house.
Yeah, I was forged in blizzards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have not experienced the blizzard. Actually, the first time I experienced snow, I actually was not happy about it because I was in the process of climbing Pikes Peak. We'd like trained for months, and then we're climbing Pikes Peak, and then we're probably, I don't know how close we were to the top, but we're getting close to the top, and then then it starts to snow. It's like, of all the things, it's like I can hardly move and keep going right now. But it's like I got snow in my face.
I mean, I've gotten like that snowboarding and stuff. It starts snowing all crazy, but I've never like been, I guess, somewhere where it's just insane snow going on, like huge piles, or I can't move or anything.
Brad, we should do that.
Yeah, but my winters are usually like around Christmas. I'm like, why is it 80 degrees out right now?
Yeah.
Nah.
That's about it.
We're taking Brad to the Midwest.
Yeah, you don't know what problem solving is until you're like an hour and a half away from home in your car, and then you literally can't see.
Yep.
And then you're just like, well, gotta deal with this now. Like, yeah.
When I was in college, my like shitty green Ford Taurus, my like 97 Ford Taurus that I had, couldn't produce heat. And so I tried to avoid driving in the winter as much as possible, but there would be times where like I would have to drive a little bit, stop, like pull over, get de-icer out, de-ice the windows, drive a little bit, and just like it was miserable. It was a terrible.
Yeah, it sounds lame.
Yeah.
What
I hate the cold.
What's the real killer though is when it gets too cold to snow. Like when it's so cold it can't even blizzard, even though you can see that it like wants to, but it's so cold it won't even do that. And then like the people on the news are like, yeah, don't go outside. Just don't go outside.
Don't go outside.
Because if you're out there for 10 minutes, you'll just kind of die.
You'll just die.
Yeah.
Hey, today's a bad day to be alive.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is going to do it for our November Q&A. Thank you, everybody who submitted questions. Apologies for those of you who did not get your questions submitted. I will be making a Patreon post either at the end of this month or early next month, letting you know when you could submit questions for December, so we can get those in early. December is going to be a little tricky because we've got a lot of people leaving for fairly lengthy periods of time for Christmas. And so much like this month, we might have to shuffle things around if you are looking forward to the next Q&A. But thank you, panel, for your responses. I really liked the old GT memories too. It's always fun, especially like things that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. Thanks, everybody.